Yeah. So I think you can just take over, Steve. I think this is the 15th lecture. So thank you so much for joining. I'll be off with my video and I'll go on mute. So whenever you need me, I'll just be back. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Good morning, afternoon, evening. I am Steve Wolfson, and I am going to be speaking on living life from the soul's perspective. For those of you who may not be familiar with me, I practice evolutionary astrology, and I did it quote by the book for many years. And my life started changing from the inside out, and through applying what I had learned and experienced in evolutionary astrology. And it started changing my perspective. And so for the last few years, I am speaking more and more on what I would call applied astrology, or applying astrology to our lives. Speaking from my own experiences and how my life has changed, and my inner level of contentment, being at peace, and acceptance in a very, what to me feels very healthy and positive ways. And a lot of my work at this point is helping people through the many changes that are going on around us. Because we're not just going around and around and around, going through these cycles and repeating them over and over. We are advancing, we are evolving. Our awareness, our consciousness, our very sense of what are we doing here? What am I doing here in this body? What's the point? What am I supposed to be doing? Why does the world seem the way it is? What's going on? And how am I best and intended to respond to it? I found for myself and for many of the type of people that tend to be drawn to astrology, a core underlying archetype I would call unworthiness, not feeling worthy, not feeling deserving. I began to realize this is not our true nature. This is, in fact, our true nature is much the opposite of that. And yet through our conditioning, through living in these bodies for however many years we've been here, we have been taught, we have learned, we have ingested that there's something wrong with me. We have had many people who truly care about us, starting with parents, who have given us that message. Why? Because that's the way they were raised, that's what they learned. We're at a time now where the time is here for turning that around. From an evolutionary astrology perspective, evolutionary astrology is about the soul, with Pluto in particular, but Scorpio 8th house representing the soul, its past, its present, and its future in a polarity point. And yet, very few of us at this point identify who am I as I am a soul. I am my soul. I am the soul. We know this mentally. We don't, very few people I encounter, including me, know this consciously on an ongoing basis. And my feeling, my sense is that the planet is waking up now, and that's a lot of why things feel very intense. because we're moving very rapidly. You can't really see this in an astrology chart because it's two-dimensional, because we're dealing with more than two dimensions. The astrology that we know is symbolic, and yet it needs to be applied on the soul perspective and the degree of soul awareness that a person has. So for people that are highly conditioned, the same chart, the same planets and aspects are going to have a different actualization, the way that they're carried out, than for someone who has broken through a lot of their conditioning and has gotten more centered in awareness of themselves as soul. And this, to me, is the deeper work at this time. Most people that are interested in astrology, that are in a depth astrology that I encounter, are what I would call sensitive, empathic souls who are serious about growing, about understanding their purpose, and about wanting and being willing to make whatever changes they feel drawn to make. Now, here's the thing. We have been taught that I'm responsible for making these changes. Even in evolutionary astrology, the underlying message is the reason I'm in these pickles, these issues that I am, is because in my past lives, I didn't get it. I resisted, I didn't pay attention, et cetera, et cetera. There's an underlying message there that what I did was somehow wrong, or a failing, or a fault. And this leads to the underlying state of unworthiness that is in the great majority that I encounter of what I would call spiritually oriented souls, people. And the work at this time, which I don't even like the word work anymore, but the path at this time is turning that around. And it begins with becoming aware of our beliefs, of the way we see ourselves. One thing that's going on for many, many of us that is not so talked about is the transition that's occurring is not that, or let me put it this way. In the religions or philosophies like Buddhism and Hinduism, which acknowledge the existence of a soul and the many lives that soul has lived in this world, in this reality. They do understand that this is a long process. But even there, we have these concepts of karma is fine. There are consequences and reactions to anything we do. They're like ripples. But we have created the words good and bad, which are judgments on our actions. And what we deem good is what we aspire to, and what we deem bad is what we wish to deny or push aside. And the thing is that every single one of us has all sorts of tendencies and desires within us. And some of them are culturally taboo in whatever culture we happen to be in. The taboos vary from nation to nation and religion to religion. But the issue is, if if I desire something that I'm being told by those who are supposedly wiser than I am, and I have these desires, and if they become overwhelming, then I'm going to have a certain inherent judgment on myself about how bad I am. And because I want to be good and I want to be seen as good, then I'm going to take the parts of me that don't match what that culture defines good as and push them away. I'm going to deny them. And when I encounter people that I see that have some of these tendencies that I'm in denial of, I'm going to take all of my frustration, anger, and bad feelings about the tendencies in myself and push them on that person or that group of people or that subgroup in order to get away from the feelings within myself that I don't like, that I'm ashamed of, that I feel are wrong. So part of this turning around process that I have been experiencing is learning that there's no feeling, no desire, no whatever that I have that is terrible, no matter what it is. Even if I have desires to hurt other people, that's not my root desire. The root desire, the tendency or feeling to, lash out, to blame other people, to put it on other people, really is a way of dealing with my own unfelt, repressed, denied, bad feelings about myself, or anger about the things that I have experienced in my life. One of the important changes in starting to look at life from the perspective of the soul rather than of the individual personality is the awareness within a soul that there's a script for the lifetime that I'm living, that I'm leading. Nothing has happened that is not in the script. I basically agreed to the script before I came into physical form. Therefore, nobody is at fault for anything that has occurred in my life, including unspeakable things. This does not mean I deserved them or that I did anything bad or wrong. And it does not mean that some of the things that happened are okay. What it does mean is that anything and everything that has occurred in my life, in the deepest level, has been to help me evolve. Now, this, again, is not a justification or rationalization for any sort of abuse. But what it means, and if I did experience abuse, whether emotional, physical, sexual, spiritual, it's not because I, quote, deserved it, or I was being punished, or I did anything wrong. Somehow, on a larger level or perspective that I, as a person, may not be clear on, those experiences were necessary in my life. And the justification that this is my bad karma because I must have done this to somebody else, in a lifetime or 13 lifetimes or whatever, does not really explain it. Because that just creates more unworthiness. In other words, we are not what we do or what we have done. I am a soul, an eternal soul. And I have had life lessons along the way for a very long time, because what I'm learning about the life lessons of is huge, infinite, humongous, never ending, and continually changing. Out of the experiences I've had, out of things I've done that I'm not necessarily proud of every last piece, I have come to be able to say, I would not do that again in that way. And I feel like that is the point. Because like little children, little kids do stuff. And we gradually learn that, oh, well, that just isn't a really good way to do things. And maybe I even inadvertently hurt some other people along the way from what I did, out of unconsciousness or ignorance. And if I am holding myself hostage to what I've done in the past, I'm just staying stuck in the same rut. The way out of all of this, rather than saying the way out, let me say the way into a place of inner true contentment, being at peace, is through acceptance, accepting. And it starts with the realization, I am a soul and I am inherently worthy. We're kind of taught that me as a person, I have deviated from my soul. I've gone away from it. It's another way that I have been bad or done it too imperfectly. I say that's not really possible. Nothing can happen that is not within the realm of what the soul wants to experience. Even if I allow myself to get carried away into activities that I'm thinking of things like addiction right here. And if I just let myself go and it's like, screw it, I don't care, I'm not going to feel good about that when I come out of it. It's kind of like having had sort of a nightmare dream. But I got to experience the dream. And the memories of this dream are within my soul and they're not going away. And many times we hear about the people that have really, by their own estimation later on, gone off the course of where they wanted to be, and how this changed them. How they realized, oh my gosh, I mean, first of all, that a lot of stuff that happened to them or that they had believed or been taught, they realized was nonsense. And they had to come there the experiential way. They then reach a point in their life and it's like, well, I know, I've finally started getting my act together. And what I want to do with this is help other people who feel like they've lost their way. And it turns around. What if that was the way that life was intended to work? Because the person needed to, quote, fall from grace, so to speak, to really experience firsthand these experiences that many other people experience. And so it's then when they are speaking to other people who are perhaps caught in similar places, they're able to do this without judgment and with a deep understanding of what those people are going through. What if that was the best way for them to prepare for the work that they were truly intended to be doing for the rest of their lives? In our culture, we would have lots of judgments on the path and the behaviors that got the person to that place in the first place. What if they were actually fulfilling their life purpose through having what outside people might call a fall? I say that this type of experience is very, very common. One of the reasons I had a very difficult, not me personally, but what if one of the reasons I had a very difficult childhood? What if I had been, physically violated repeatedly? This sort of thing. What if it was decades of healing to come to some sort of peace with myself? What have I learned from that is of value to many, many other people who have not yet been able to get back to themselves and pull themselves together? To know that somebody deeply understands what happened to me and where I am as a result of that, and even more than that, that they have worked out a lot in their own life that is more than I have so far, which shows me a couple of things. One, that it's possible to overcome this, and two, that there are people who don't have judgment on me for what I've been through, but that actually appreciate and care about me for what I have been through. So the perspective that I am just speaking from is part of living life or seeing life from the soul's perspective. Now, these experiences to the human, to our ego, to our personality, are often, they're not fun. They're not fun. They're not supposed to be fun. It's been very easy as a result of this to attribute it to, I must have done something bad in a past life to deserve to have these experiences. Well, in some cases, that might be true. What if I had to have those experiences in a past life so that in this life, I would have these experiences I've had in this one that allow me to help other people? What if I needed them 4 lifetimes ago, 7 lifetimes ago, maybe for 3 lifetimes? And yet now I'm here, and as a result of all that accumulated experience and wisdom that's stored in my soul, I can now help other people get themselves on a path where they're feeling better about themselves. They learn how to feel better about themselves and realize that they haven't done anything wrong, no matter what they've done or not done. This, again, is when we start seeing life from the soul's perspective. In other words, anything and everything that occurs is here to assist me in my evolution. The amount of it that is a punishment for past or present misdeeds is 0. There are no punishments. There are only efforts and attempts, because we are held, this soul, our soul and the universal soul, holds us through all of this in a love that is so deep and so profound and so gentle that an unconditional love, it doesn't mean that, oh good, now I can do anything and everything. It's a love of like a mother who wants the best for their children and is not projecting their own agenda on the children, but truly wants to help the child unfold its own unique individuality even if that deeply affects that parent and brings up all the parent stuff. Because the point of all of this is to bring up our stuff. We don't want to feel it. I will say many of us don't want to feel it because a lot of it is painful. A lot of it has been difficult. But our healing journey, the process of all of this, is to change our relationship to what we have experienced. To begin to see over time why I had to experience various things I had to experience and what they have added to me in shaping me to be the person that I have become. And more and more and more, it's about beginning to really deeply appreciate the person I have become. And I'm talking about every individual I who might be watching this. Because each one of us, our souls, are utterly unique. There is nobody else anywhere like me. There's nobody anywhere like you. This is the diversity in the universe. And we are called to express our individuality and our uniqueness. We generally live in cultures that do not really support this unfolding in this way. We are taught to conform. We are taught to people please. We realize that we all yearn for, from day of birth, love, to be loved, to be loved, to be cared about. And we learn early on that certain behaviors will get us approval and love, and certain behaviors won't get us approval and love. And so we learn to become people pleasers, to hide away parts that don't fit what people are looking for. If I'm getting the message back all the time, as a child, you're too angry, you're too angry, you're too angry, or you're too sad, you're too sad, you're too sad, or you're too enthusiastic, you're too enthusiastic, calm down, slow down, stop being so jumpy all over the place. We gradually start taking some of that on. And in this, we are hiding our uniqueness. We're not necessarily going to be applauded by everyone for our uniqueness. And lo and behold, it turns out the answer to this is to learn how to love and appreciate my own uniqueness, and to learn to stop looking for and seeking external approval. When I feel deeply unworthy at the core, unworthiness is the core problem, the core archetype that's the cause of all of this. There's many, many, many reasons why anyone might feel unworthy, but the effect of it is similar in most cases. I feel like I'm not inherently good enough, so I go around through life seeking other people's approval. Oh, I have this idea. What do you think about that? You ask your, 7 friends, and you get 7 different answers. And generally we allow this to affect, have some role or play in what we do, in our decisions. So how do I know what's my path? I know it inside. This is intuition. Our education, our Western education, is predominant left brain education. Everything is facts, figures, information, there's some objective universe out there that this is the way things are. But I don't know, I have a gut feeling that you know, I should do this or I shouldn't do this. We are taught to override our gut feelings, to use our all-powerful analytical abilities to deduce what is the best or appropriate response. We have deadened ourselves to our intuitive natures, much of which is the feminine energy, not gender, the feminine energy of the universe. How do I know what's right for me? I feel it in my bones. I feel it in my gut. Why is it right for me? Because these are the messages life is sending me of what is the right path for me to unfold, what I am intended to do with my uniqueness. And it's many things that are, you know, not in the supposed tos that most people are taught. Let me talk a bit about the waking up that's going on. The waking up that's going on is a shift from identifying who I am as my personality over to identifying who I am as my soul. And we can, the fight or flight instinct, impulse, the reptilian brain, the trauma, which is what creates trauma in the body and so forth when it's triggered and when it brings up the memories of past triggers. This is all associated with the ego, with the personality. The job, the function of the body, of the limbic, of the brain, of the nervous system has been to keep us alive, safe, and well in our current form, meaning in the human body, alive. And we have gotten all identified with this. The opposite of feeling safe in the body, what things boil down to, bottom line is, oh my God, I could die from whatever. This represents the unknown. This is why we stick to what we know, to the known, to what we know, because we feel safe there. What we don't know, what's new, what's unfamiliar to us, doesn't feel safe to that body. And so it puts us into a fight or flight sort of state. I'm afraid of the future, what might happen. Oh my God, I could lose everything I have. I'm in this relationship for 9 years, and my partner, this is theoretical. I'm in this relationship with my partner for 9 years, and he's not fulfilling me. But I'm going to stay here because how do I know I'm going to have anything ever have anything any better? All of this kind of thinking. I'm going to stay in this job for 22 years. I don't really like the job, but it's safe and secure, and I'm afraid of what might happen if I left it. So the gist of it is the edge, the soul, the new, the unknown, the change. Life is not standing still. If you have any doubts of this, let me assure you, life is not standing still. Astrology is awesome in this way because we're seeing in the continual movement of planets in the chart in the heavens and how we interpret them, nothing is standing still. And yet to our personalities, to our personas, there are a lot of parts of us that would like everything to stand still. In other words, we don't want to lose the parts we like, and we can't wait for the parts that we don't like to get out of here, to be done. This is the basic orientation of living from the ego perspective. I want more and more and more of what I think I want, and after I've had the newness of whatever it is I think I want and it arrives, before too long, I'm kind of tired of that and I want some more new. And it's for those feelings I don't like to feel, or the things that come up in life that are unpleasant, that are, push my buttons and all this. I don't want to deal with them, and I want them out of my life. And where do I have to move or go or change or whatever to get rid of that? This is the core issue of our unhappiness. We think happiness comes from having more of what I want and less of what I don't want. And in that, I do momentarily feel happy. But soon enough, it's changed. I'm no longer, what has been making me happy is no longer making me happy. In fact, maybe now it starts to make me unhappy. So somehow happiness, and this is the source of things like addictive behaviors, if not, and full-blown addictions, but addictive behaviors. Because I want the constant change. I want to repeat the feelings that release the dopamine in my brain so that I feel good, which is new. And somehow or other, let's take relationships as a perfect example. If I keep changing relationships, partners, because the same darn things keep happening, and once again, I have found the person that's not the right person that I thought was the right person because I'm feeling the same things again. How come I don't see this? And on it goes. What if the whole point of what comes up after X period of time in that relationship is so that you're going to start feeling the things you don't want to feel? What if the things I don't want to feel are the very things that are holding me back and keeping me in the repetitive loop of repeating the same darn experience over and over and over? As they say, having a relationship with the same person that has 6 different faces over a period of time. What if it's not a coincidence or a mistake? Our soul is trying to understand itself and to bring to its awareness, what do I need to include? All of the emotions, from the sublime to the extremely painful and scary, depressing, sad, grief-ridden, all this. Everything is divine. We have been taught in many philosophies that there are good emotions and bad emotions. I would say it would be better to say it, and spiritual emotions and non-spiritual emotions. I would think it would be better to say it as there are emotions that I like to feel and emotions that I don't like to feel. And I push out and reject the emotions I don't like to feel, even into states of denial, repression, and so forth, so that I don't have to feel them because I don't like what they bring up. They also might lead to change that I'm afraid to make. Well, the gist of it is everything is changing all the time. Change is different than running away from. In other words, some people want to move somewhere and start all over again. And sometimes that's valid. But as they say, wherever I go, there I am. I'm bringing who I am, where I am with me everywhere I go. I'm not saying one should never move. I'm not saying one should always move. There's a right time where I have learned there's a right time and a right feeling for everything, all change. And I also have learned that my ego, me, what I have identified as me, often wants to move or change ahead of the actual time that it's intended. Because that part of me is trying to get out of feeling things I don't like to feel, don't want to feel. We don't graduate from school until the very last day. The last month or two, or even the last year, could be kind of boring or anticlimactic, because I'm already anticipating what's coming next. But I have to live it out. One of the things with the soul perspective is I'm living right here, right now, in this moment. Not in the future, not in the past. It doesn't mean I shouldn't think about the future or the past. It's that, but if I'm not present here right now, in the present moment, nobody's here witnessing the present moment. I'm experiencing it unconsciously. It may be painful. That's okay. It hasn't been okay for me. The more that I look at things is that every moment, every experience is bringing me something that is good for me, that is good for my growth, good for my soul, good for my unfolding. Then I am better able to be present with the present moment. I have to go into a meeting with someone that I don't necessarily, that I have a hard time getting along with. Maybe it's my boss. I don't look forward to it. I don't have to look forward to it. It's not bad to not want to do it. It's not bad to wish it was over, but it isn't over. I don't have to put on a happy face and pretend that I like it. I can admit to myself, I'm afraid. I don't want to do this. I wish I didn't have to do it. I'm afraid of what the outcome might be. In some cases, it can be like, oh my God, my whole life can fall apart. Maybe I'm afraid I'm going to get fired and I have a mortgage that is dependent on the job. But I still need to be in the present. And the gist of it, see, our fears, it's our fight and flight response that creates the fears. Oh my God, something might happen. The soul's perspective is, if something occurs in my life that is going to result in a big change or even a little change, it's part of my soul path. If I get fired, so to speak, it's not a sign of failure. It's a sign that life is telling me the lessons that you can learn here are over, are done. Congratulations, you have graduated. You are graduating. Now, I can have all kinds of underlying emotions. I can feel, nobody likes to be rejected. So if I feel like I'm in a job and I'm going to be let go, and I've been putting my all in the job, well, I'm going to very likely feel some anger about it. And that's pretty reasonable. That's something I have to go through in the process of accepting the change that's coming in my current circumstances. You can apply what I'm saying about losing a job to any situation in life. When things end, their usefulness to that soul is not ended. And at the same time, if I wish that I would quit my job or get fired so I can get the heck out of there, and it doesn't happen, and I don't seem to leave, but I think I want to, well, maybe I'm not done there. Maybe I would like to be done there. Maybe I think I'm done there. I find that When it's time for something to end, it's often not when I think or wish it might be, whether I want it sooner or later. But it all ends at the right time, and I am gradually shifted into the next phase of what's coming in my life. And everything that has been and is coming, and all the emotions that come up that I need to process and integrate in order to, which can include grieving. That's the grieving process. Grieving is a letting go. It's an accepting that what has been my reality, my norm for some period of time is changing. Every change is for the better. It can be very uncomfortable and sometimes for a long time, but it's for the best. We can even start looking at death this way. Death is the fight or flight response. Death is the ultimate loss, anything but that. Death, it's a physical death. There is no death. There's leaving of form. We're in a form for a period of time. I am an eternal, immortal soul. I've had endless changes and shifts in form, lifetimes, forever and ever, on and on. This one's going to end someday. When I'm done here. Somebody gets hit by a car and dies instantly at 29. In some ways, it's a tragedy. In other ways, it was part of their script. Why? We don't remember. Guaranteed, in the big picture, it was a perfect thing to occur. We cannot die one moment before we're intended to, and we can't live one moment longer than we're intended to. So even in death is a transition. I don't remember it. I don't remember the details. But I know that we shift from being here to being where we are. And there's a transition. It goes through time because we have some attachment still to people and circumstances that we have just spent a lifetime with, where we have been learning and growing. And we can feel gratitude for all that has come our way, the things we enjoyed and the things we didn't enjoy, because all of it has added to the sum total of my experience of who I am, and who I have become as a result of all that I have been through. So the gist of it is that what I'm finding, because I was aware on some level of a lot of what I'm talking about throughout my life, but I was very far from embracing it. I wasn't living it. And that was part of my journey. I feel that's part of many of our journeys. We're here to learn how to integrate and embrace and live from, grounded in the body, living from this perspective among people who don't understand this perspective, and many of whom don't even have any interest in the perspective. They don't see it that way. And that's okay. That's okay. Life puts us where we're put, because wherever it is we're stationed, there are people, we will encounter people who will find value in who I am, the way I am, and I will find some people who are of value to me from where they are. I need to wind down, and I want to speak that signs of this waking up that's going on. We would think that becoming aware of what's going on, we would feel, blissed out all the time, happy, dancing on the clouds and so forth. It's actually a transition. In a way, it's like a death within a death, because our attachment or identification with this personality is literally being taken away from us. One of the ways that I've heard, not my words, but I love this analogy, which is because we spiritual people tend to spend a lot of time trying to surrender. You know, I surrender, let it be thy will, not my will. And all this, I surrender, you take it over. And the saying that is, I think, is so wonderful is, the one who is trying to surrender is what is being surrendered. In other words, the persona that we have is not and never has been who we truly are. And we don't remember this. I am the soul. I have created this persona, this physical vehicle to express through and to learn lessons in depth and share with others. Now, part of this waking up process that many, many, many of us are in, and we are not well educated about this at this time because there's not that many people around that understand the process, is that rather than feeling blissful a lot of the time, the feelings associated with waking up can include loneliness, loss of meaning, boredom, depression, just a general sense of dismay, or what the heck is going on? I don't feel like doing anything. I've lost my interest in this, that, and the other. And all of this is inherent, normal part of the waking up process. We're not taught this. Many people are in this process now, and this can go on for a number of years because we are transitioning from identification with our personality to realizing I am the soul. And everything that has occurred and is occurring and will occur comes with my permission and with my desire. Every uncomfortable situation, every person going off in your face is an opportunity to see and meet parts of me that I'm uncomfortable with, that I don't like to deal with. The tendency to blame others, in other words, I was feeling great today until I ran into you. You made me feel this crappy way that I have worked so hard to not feel. That person actually has given me a great gift. I'm still integrating this principle because they're giving me the opportunity to see what in me still allows itself to get pulled out of the state of being okay with what's going on in the current moment. It's introducing me to wounded places and emotions in me that really want love from me because they didn't get it in childhood, they're left over, and they want someone to care for them, and I am the someone and the only someone who can. And so it becomes learning, how do I do that? How do I do that? And this is what we're waking up into. And it starts with a practicing of truly loving ourselves for any and everything that we do. And when I encounter a place in me that I simply cannot love for whatever reason, then I can love the part of myself that simply cannot love that thing. Because everything that happens to us is exactly as it should be and is helping us to grow. And more and more of us are going to be spending more and more time in this perspective as these years go by. And I will add that because the world at large is not expecting this, we're going to see a lot of crazy stuff going on. And don't be fooled by this. The world is not going to end, and it's not our job to try to make sense out of it or to heal the people, but to heal ourselves and those that may come around wanting a piece. What is it you have? Because I see something you have that I would like to know. And what is it? And how do I get it? And we will be helping in those ways. My understanding is that we're going to pause here and potentially have some questions.
We don't. I don't see any questions as such. So if you have any final thoughts, I think you can just go ahead with it, Steve.
Oh, okay, cool. I'm just going to kind of wind down on the same theme. That, in fact, I'll take a few minutes and apply this to astrology here. The way that I look at charts at this point is with the assumption or insight, intuition that people that are having difficulties or issues in their life, which I've found about 95% of people that want a reading are not there because their life is unfolding so amazingly, they want to know why. But for things that they're going through. And so I look at it this perspective now, that everything that everyone is going through is part of their waking up and waking out of their present sense of who they are. And from that perspective, I offer what I can to guide them in not so much anymore telling them what I think they should do, but trying to guide them towards what I think would help them go through the experiences that they need to go through. In other words, the inner attitudes. How do I change my experience of what is coming? So it's not like, you're going to have a Saturn return, or Saturn is squaring your moon, or whatever. But what are the gifts that are coming from this experience? And trying to remove the fear factor, because we have a lot of astrology, to me, has been taught with this is good and this is bad, and this one's really going to be difficult. And I try to put it now, not so much that it's going to be difficult, is that a lot of change is going to be going on. You don't really have to do anything. There's no direction that you need to move yourself in, because life is going to be moving you. It's more like, be aware that you're going to be going through a lot of change, and that change is all for your best. Some of the time, you will probably experience it as not very pleasant. Things that may not feel like fun may occur, but they're all for your best, and it's an opportunity to internalize and realize that I am simply moving forward with more love for myself and more appreciation for being allowed to even have all these experiences and move through them. This is a shift in attitude, and it's all of the interpretations and wisdom that astrologers have and present clients with is awesome. And none of that really needs, to me, is fine as it is. There's an underlying shift from the sort of fatalistic view to the realization that no matter what's happening, good, easy, bad, difficult, is for our benefit and is actually a contribution to ourself and to life in general. And I'm going to close with that. I thank all of you who may be watching this in the future, and I appreciate your taking the time to watch this with me. Thank you.
Okay, one moment. I'm just okay. So it was a good spiritual dosage, but more on a personal sense and personally philosophical. So yesterday we had Babaji delivering a lecture which was similar on philosophical lines, but both completely were different on their own, and I'm sure both the philosophical lectures will add value to people, and I just hope many people just get a chance to watch this. Thank you so much, Steve. Thank you so much for doing this lecture at very, very early hours of the day at in your part of the world. So thank you so much.
Yes, you're very welcome. You're very welcome.
Thanks.